The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Rochester Press Box, brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse. I'm Mike Catalana, filling in, I guess, as full-time host, right? Because Bill Pucko's not here. Usually co-host, that's the title he gives me a little bit while we're here. And we're excited to talk sports with you today. We got a great panel with us. Let's start to my right, Paul Gotham, Picking Splinters. Great website if you get a chance. Welcome to the show this week.
Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
They cover tons of local sports. That's one you're going to check out. One of the sports they cover, the Rochester Red Wings. Nate Rowan joins us from there. Thanks for being back.
Of course. Thanks for having me back.
And the guy who works for, well, at least two of us on this panel. And who knows, maybe get a little Red Wings work in it sometime too. Matt Trabold writes on 13wham.com, writes on Picking Splinters. A lot of stuff going on. College basketball expert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. No Duffy today, so I had to bring the beer torch with me.
Well, obviously, it's a better show because Duffy's not here. Getting a shot at that. All right, let's talk NBA to start, because the NBA has now become, even more so, I think, than the NFL, a year-round thing. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But we'll start with LeBron James. I'm going to start with you, Matt. Why did he do it?
It is quite a quandary, if you ask me. I think it shows that even though it's LeBron, you always think he's going to rally every season, have that winning mentality. He might have actually been legitimately exhausted after that postseason run, because you never thought he'd take a year off from wanting to be a contender for the title.
Yeah, it's basically what he's going to end up with, I think, unless they make some other moves. Now, at the time we're taping this, we don't know if they'll end up getting Kawhi Leonard or anybody else. But the idea that he would jump to the West, I think that's the biggest thing, because obviously he's owned the East.
Well, and to your point about owning the NFL and kind of taking a page out of the NFL's PR book, there are so many different aspects to this. What's going to happen with Lonzo Ball?
Yeah.
What's going to happen now with all the guys? Lance Stevenson
is
on the same team with LeBron, and is Magic, because you have. How's Magic Johnson going to play out in this? Because you have Luke Walton, to be a fly on the wall of the discussion between Luke Walton and Steve Kerr when LeBron came over, because he had to say, am I going to be the next coach who's going to be left in his wake?
Yeah.
And how do I handle this? Do I just hand the team over to LeBron, or do I stay a proud guy and try to coach this team? So there's really enough fodder to be on every website, the front page of every website, for the next 3 months.
And then, Nate, we add in Golden State, already the best team, and they just add another all-star in Boogie Cousins.
Yeah, and I think I posed to you guys before the show started, is their starting five now the best starting five in NBA history? And it's at least up for debate. And the thing with the NBA is, despite the salary cap, these teams are still finding ways to put a bunch of superstars together. And I think it may be time for the NBA to maybe look at that, because I'm not sure it's so great for the NBA when there's only a handful of teams that, before the season starts, you realistically believe they can win the title.
Yeah, well, Matt, we know the thing about Cousins is he's taken $5 million. I mean, it's chump change, right? $5 million. But he's able to do that for a couple of reasons, I think. One, because he is coming off an injury, and two, he's Boogie Cousins. He's a pain in the butt. He really is.
He's become a sideshow, and he's so good on the court, it really is too bad. But he really seems like, with all these stars in the Warriors, maybe the least likely to have this winning over money mentality. But like you just said a second ago, he can be a little bit absurd at times. So that locker room, we'll see how it works, because it's not a done deal.
Yeah, I mean, they've owned their own locker room. I mean, they brought Durant in, but Durant is a universally accepted number 1, 2, 3 player in the world. That's the thing about Cousins, though. I mean, Cousins puts up the numbers. He's always put up the numbers. He was in New Orleans last year. He put up numbers, but when he went out of the lineup, they played better basketball and ended up sweeping a series in the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Golden State is the favorite, and now Boston certainly would be the favorite in the East.
And your Sixers are
well, the Sixers will be the Sixers will be there with them, and I think the East is competitive. One thing to keep in mind, young stars in the East, if they can keep them in the East, eventually this will switch over. We're going to take a break. When we come back, hey, we'll change it up. Instead of the Bills, we're talking Sabres, how they look now after their development camp, free agency, and the trades. When we come back on the Rochester Press Box.
The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Mike Catalana, your host. Bill Pucko this week off. We miss Bill. Pat Duffy's not here. Well, that's fine. Okay, we've got Paul, we've got Nate, we've got Matt here. We're talking, normally in this segment, we tend to talk about the Buffalo Bills because the NFL is the NFL. The NFL takes the 4th of July off. I don't know if anybody really knows that, but they basically, it's like unwritten, like everybody take a vacation. Everybody needs a break. So the Bills are off, everybody's off. We're not going to talk to them. We're going to go on the ice with the Sabres. Development camp's over. Trade deadline, free agency going, or trades and then free agency going. Where are they, Nate, right now after all this is done?
I think that the Dahlin selection was a no-brainer. It makes them better defensively. Ryan O'Reilly's a big loss. They traded him. They got a lot back for him, but it's not a lot of items that are going to impact them significantly this year. And they're a team that struggled with depth to begin with. You know, they really only got scoring from one line, one player mostly, Jack, last year. And so they solidified goaltending, which is a big issue the last couple of years, but they still got a long ways to go. And I think what the Washington Capitals proved in their Stanley Cup run is that you need depth. You know, they got 3 game-winning goals in the Stanley Cup final from their fourth line.
Yeah.
That's big. And so they're trying to get some more players, and you build depth, and you try to build a winning culture. And that starts in the minor leagues. They're trying to acquire players. It's a good start, but the NHL team next year is probably going to have a rough go of it.
Hey, Paul, you know, you talk about building a culture, and we've seen it happen with the Bills, where they get in their own guys, right? That seems to be a big deal, bringing in your own guys. But when you trade a player like Ryan O'Reilly, who they did not sign and bring in to, you know, get some prospects and hope these guys work out, it does seem sort of like clearing the decks. We're going to build it our own way.
Well, and it clears them of $7.5 million that was due.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it's going to be a loss for their depth, but they were probably, like you said, 6 players short of a team, and they got how many guys in return in these 2 trades, and I think it puts them into position to at least have an opportunity to develop some depth. The Amherst made the playoffs, which that hasn't happened in how long. So there are signs of growth there, and at least there seems to be a trying to find a foundation and build from there.
Yeah,
at
Matt,
this point.
you were up there. You saw them a little bit too. You were up there for different things for Channel 13. Rasmus Dahlin, it's interesting, isn't it? An 18-year-old kid. He looks like he's about 12, but he is a phenomenally skilled player. And they're going to be able to count on a kid like that? I mean, people think he's already their number 1 defenseman.
From a personality standpoint, he might have a long way to go because on the ice, with hits and stuff, a lot of guys, they have the skill, they have the stick skills on top of that. But when it comes to the body, I mean, Casey Mittelstadt had to go to Minnesota and bulk up. Now he is ready for the NHL. Dahlin already has that body, but he's very meek. I don't know if it's a good sign that his mother will be living with him to start off with things in the Sabres in terms of his maturity.
Yeah.
So at some point, you have to move over from rebuilding to actually vying for a playoff spot, a playoff run. So youth is good, but youth has to turn into something at some point.
Yeah, Nate, you see young guys come in baseball, but they're a few years older by the time they make it to the Red Wings than these guys basically coming out of what would be high school.
Right, and you know, I think ideally these guys would develop in their respective leagues. A lot of guys don't come over until they're ready for the NHL.
Yeah.
A lot of guys aren't going to come over. Dahlin is obviously coming to be a regular in the lineup. In fact, on draft night, the analyst on NBC said that Dahlin was their number one defenseman, a no-brainer, which is crazy that an 18-year-old who has never played a shift in the NHL now becomes what somebody would say is a top defenseman. But he certainly has the skill set, and we saw it during the World Juniors on display in Buffalo this year.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing. He could be the number one defenseman because nobody else is even in that position. Sure. But he could earn it, too, quickly when he gets on the ice. Hey, look, they finished dead last again last year. We know there's only one way to go. We'll see if they can start to get there. We're taking a break. When we come back, like it or not.
Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Mike Catalana, along with Paul Gotham, Nate Rowan, Matt Trabold here. We're talking different sports now. We're going to go to a few different things. And let's talk about the World Cup. Paul, I want to ask you about the World Cup. How has this been as a non-USA World Cup for the USA?
Well, for me, what's not to like about it? I think it's been great. We start off, Ronaldo has a hat trick on opening day. Then you have Messi struggling. And so you have the whole drama of those two guys playing seemingly parallel positions going through that opening round. Then they both get eliminated. We're a country that enjoys our underdogs, right? Well, Germany's been eliminated, the last champion. The champion before that, Spain, was eliminated. And then we had this amazing game with Belgium coming back from 2 down to win 3-2 in stoppage time. So I realized it would be nice to have the USA in the World Cup. It's kind of like beer and pretzels. You can enjoy the beer without the pretzels just as well, and it's the same thing with the USA not being in the World Cup. It'd be nice to have them there, but it's still the World Cup, and it's great.
Yeah, I do think you lose some of the whole nationalistic part of it, right? You're going to lose some of those people who just want to sit there and watch the U.S. But let's be honest, it's the men's team. So we haven't had great success on the men's team.
We're in the point where it's we're in the round of 16. We're getting down to the final 8. Realistically, would USA still be in at this point? I mean, it would have been nice to watch them play a few matches, but the World Cup has certainly been exciting. We've had it on in the press box at Frontier Field, and seemingly every game comes down to the end. There's key penalty kicks. We saw Russia upset to get to the next round. I mean, it's been really exciting, and the fans have showed out. I wish I could be a part of something as exciting as the World Cup.
And it'll be interesting when Ronaldo signs with the Golden State Warriors next year. Speaking of basketball and signing, Matt, our local guy, Thomas Bryant, like it or not, sign him with the Wizards.
I like it a lot because the Wizards, he has more of an opportunity to play and be up on the parent club. Right now, because they traded away Marcin Gortat for Austin Rivers, Jan Mahinmi, who is not a starter, is the best center on that roster right now. And the Lakers just did not emphasize that position enough. Brook Lopez gets injured. You're like, oh, they're going to call him up from the South Bay Lakers. Yeah. But no, they go with Gary Payton II, a guard. Luke Walton and his staff just did not have that emphasis when it came to the big man, and he really suffered for that. I think he is in a much better spot to not only get on a roster, be on the parent club, but also make a name for himself.
Yeah, and quickly, it's hard to make it into the NBA. But not only do we have Thomas there now, we got a couple of guys down the pipeline. We could see a couple more Rochester guys in the NBA.
Well, absolutely. Isaiah Stewart, especially to a certain degree, he's not a 7-footer, 6'9", but in this small ball, because of those Golden State Warriors you mentioned a second ago, especially because he's working on his shot, Isaiah Stewart is a guy who deserves to be top 5 recruiting-wise right now like he is, and I think that'll just continue when it comes to prospect in the NBA down the road, not just to recruit.
Yeah, maybe Quentin Rose, too, former Bishop Kearney guy in the future. All right, Nate, wild card, 1-game playoff in a year where we could have 3 teams in the American League win over 100 games. You like the 1-game playoff?
I love it. And here's why I love it. So when I was growing up, I was a big Minnesota Twins fan. I still am a big Twins fan, obviously working for the Red Wings. When the Twins had their dominance of the American League Central, they were winning all these division titles, and then they would always run into the New York Yankees in the wild card matchup because the East winner and the wild card winner, they couldn't be from the same division. So the Yankees even said there's not really an incentive for us to win the division if we get matched up with the Twins in a series. So you're providing teams an incentive to win the division. So the games in September, because we already basically know the playoff field right now. It's going to be Seattle, it's going to be Houston, it's going to be Boston, it's going to be New York, and it's probably going to be Cleveland from the American League Central. So in the American League, you know your teams. Now you're going to fight for position in the division, and those games in September now mean something every night, whether a team has 100 wins or has fewer. I mean, they all are going to mean something because the divisions are so tight, and it's going to come down to the last couple weeks of the season.
Yeah, and the Yankees and Red Sox close the season with each other.
And one game in any sport, you're going to tune in because in one game, anything can happen. And in baseball, especially in one game, look at what the Yankees did last year in the American League wildcard game. Luis Severino got 2 outs, and they took him out of the game in the first inning. Yeah. Because you can't put up with it. You manage differently in baseball. It's a fantastic idea, and it's worked so far. We'll see when we get 2 great teams in the wildcard game this year.
All right, one more break. When we're back, unfinished business.
Here is the MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one.
Bold meets sweet. With Dunkin's new brown sugar cold brew. Sweetly balanced with brown sugar.
Welcome back. This segment called Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. We begin with Paul.
I'm going to go with high school. Is that all right? Would you expect anything less?
No.
Filed under the long overdue place, you have Jalen Pickett. Congratulations go out to the Aquinas Star, who signed a Division I offer with Siena College earlier this year. As a junior, Jalen helped lead Aquinas to the state title, AA title in basketball. And during his senior year, he had to sit by and watch everybody else get Division I offers. He finally got his offer this year, and looking for great things out of Jalen at Siena. That makes 4 guys that will start Division I careers. Section 5 guys will start Division I careers. Looking for great things for Jalen. Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, good. Thanks for pointing him out to us. All right, Matt, what do you got for us?
So this FIFA World Cup, we see fair play points be instituted, and that is getting out of the group stage onto the knockout round. It's up to yellow cards, amount of yellow cards for teams when it comes to one of the tiebreakers. I don't think it's very fair at all because you have Senegal, who lost out to Japan in that, and when you look at yellow cards, and it's so important moving on to that knockout stage, it's very subjective. Referees might be a little bit more resistant to giving a yellow card, or someone might be very quick to give a yellow card. So I think with it being that subjective, it's not very fair. Find out a better tiebreaker going forward. If you ask me, Senegal deserve better.
Yeah, if you have to name it fair play, then probably it isn't fair, right?
And the perception is not great for soccer anyways in this country. Now you put in that.
Yeah, didn't work. Didn't work very well. What do you got for us, Nate?
All right. Well, I'm going to give some idea to some internet superstar, and I'm going to start this off with a little ditty about Jack and Darlene. How about that? I don't have any more lyrics, but the Buffalo Sabres are certainly on the way to being a team that should be watched night in and night out. They were so boring last season at times, especially at the end of the year. There really wasn't a whole lot of reason to watch this team. With Jack and with Dahlin and with Casey Middlestad and a ton of other prospects now that are coming up to the point where they should be solidified NHL stars, this is a team that should start now to become a team that you see like with the likes of the Toronto Maple Leafs the last couple of years. The Leafs turned that into a John Tavares signing, and that's what the Sabres should strive to be. And this group of prospects really needs to come through this season. This is a big season for the organization, and we'll see if they're able to take these prospects and turn them into everyday NHL players.
All right, good stuff. Nate Cougar Mellencamp, Rowan. And real quick, I just want to mention this. Jameis Winston suspended. Ryan Fitzpatrick likely to start for Tampa. Week 2 of the year, they play the Eagles. I follow the Eagles. I know they've played against Fitz before. How about this? If Fitz starts in that game, he will have started against the Eagles 6 times with 6 different franchises. Only a guy like Fitz, the Harvard guy. Hey, great stuff, guys. Thank you very much. Paul, Nate, Matt Trabold, Mike Catalana, back again. Bill Pucko will be back. Duffy will be back at some point, too. Thanks for watching the Rochester Press Box. You have a great holiday weekend.